So happy to have with me today one of the most agile big men in the game, one of the best guys, and probably the most friendly psychopath I am personally aware of. It's Dutch, aka Bill Carr. Bill, so thrilled to have you here with me today on Under the Ring.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I like that introduction. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it fits you.
Friendly psychopath. I like that.
Well, to start, can you explain the Dutch character, how you see it, and how it came to being in the Righteous group?
Oh, that's so the Dutch character has been something I've wanted to do for a long time now. As you can probably tell, I'm a big fan of horror movies, and The Devil's Rejects is one of my favorite movies. Also into true crime, so I'm trying to like mix everything together. I feel as of late what I'm coming up with, everything's starting to come together now. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just I'm just a big fan of horror movies, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Devil's Rejects, that kind of stuff, and always wanted to do something along those lines. So opportunity finally came, and Vinny is along the same lines as I am when it comes to our interests. So everything kind of melded together, and it was really easy to start this up.
There was some interesting timing for you that got going right around the same time as Ring of Honor was sort of wrapping up and then getting sold, and you were gaining some traction as the six-man tag team champions with the Righteous. What was it like to be there at the end? And I'm just hoping that this leads to other opportunities in the near future for you.
Oh yeah, same here. But I mean, Ring of Honor I've been a fan of since 2002. First show I went to was Death Before Dishonor at the Rexplex in Elizabeth, New Jersey. And that was kind of my introduction into wrestling outside of WWE, WWF, WCW, ECW, and Japan. So my mind was blown that first show, and I've been a fan ever since. And it's always been a goal of mine to get to Ring of Honor. And even though I was only there for a short amount of time, under that, the Sinclair Broadcasting, only there for a short amount of time, I still loved every second of it. And I really do hope that, one of these days, we will, you'll see us back in a Ring of Honor ring. I mean, technically we still are the six-man tag champs. So we'll see what happens with that.
And you have those with you when you were when I saw you at the Civic Center and you guys took on the Briscoes.
Yes,
I guess that was January now of this year.
Yes,
it's funny that you were at the Rexplex. I used to go to those shows also. I don't think I realized that. Yeah, the first one I went to was the one when they had AJ Styles against CM Punk with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat as the referee.
Yes, okay, yep, I was at that one too. Pretty much everything. I think Death Before Dishonor might have been the first show they had at the Rexplex. So every show since then, until they closed down, I was there for all of them pretty much.
I told Tony DeVito that I was at that show, and I was explaining the show to him, and he goes, "Yeah, I was actually in the main event of that show." And I said, "You know what? You're right. You were in the main event of that show." He's everywhere, and you don't expect to find him sometimes.
That is true.
I want to start kind of at the beginning of your career, mainly because I don't exactly know how you started out in wrestling, and I think it had to do with DeVito a little bit.
Yes, it did. Funny you bring his name up. Yeah.
Yeah. The main event of Tony DeVito. So yeah, how did it all start?
So he's from my hometown in New Windsor, New York, and I would always see him around. I knew who he was, but I was always like kind of nervous to go up to him and introduce myself for some reason. And then his son started wrestling for the high school. He was on Modified. I was on Varsity at the time. And introduced myself to him when he showed up to one of the practices, and we just kind of became friendly from there. And he had a school running, but I was still in high school, so I wasn't I always wanted to, but I wasn't really prepared to start my training then. But guys like Cheech, Bobby Fish, they were at the school when I went to just go check it out and just hang out and everything. And it wasn't until I believe it was the summer of 2005. No, summer of 2006. I don't know. 2005, 2006 is when I started training. He had sold his ring right before I had asked him if he would train me. And then it just so happened that somebody in the area had a ring that was set up, and he said, "Yeah, I mean, if you find a ring, I'll train you." So I found a ring, and he trained me. So that was the beginning there. It was outside, so we could only do it during like decent weather and everything. But I think it worked.
Yeah, you ended up signing with WWE pretty quickly, pretty soon after your start. Am I right about that?
Yes. So even though I started training, like I said, 2005, 2006, and we could only do it when it was nice outside, we'd have a lot of rainy days where we'd have to cancel and everything. So I really didn't have my first actual match until I'd say 2007. It was really the first match I had. It was an 8-man tag, and somewhere in Connecticut, lasted 15 seconds, and then that was it. But technically, that was my first match. And then, little things here and there, but I was also going to school at the time and trying to train and trying to, make connections with people, just trying to get my name out there. And, so it wasn't really wrestling too much. I'd say 2009 was really when I started getting booked regularly. And I remember actually one of the most memorable shows I think I had was my getting booked at a battle royal for Northeast Wrestling at my high school. And I was Reed Flair was on the show, Ric Flair was there. So that was a big deal to me. And that was
at that show.
Yeah. Yeah, that was so I tell people that's my first match because it's like, oh, it's my high school, it's my hometown. So I got to debut in my hometown. So I tell people that's really my first match when it technically isn't, but we'll say it is. And then I started getting booked regularly down in Long Island for this company, FTW. And January of 2010 came. WWE was having a tryout in OVW. It was like $150 to sign up for it. I just had to get myself out there. So I was like, hey, you know what? Like I said, I'm trying to get my name out there. Maybe I'll meet some people who, maybe have some connections that could get me into some places. I had no intentions of getting signed from this tryout. Like I was brand new, like maybe had 15, 20 matches under my belt at this time. And so did the tryout and didn't hear anything for 2 months, 3 months. Then I get a random call at like 7:00 in the morning from a Connecticut number. And I was asleep. So I just kind of ignored it. And then they called me again later on in the day and left a voicemail. Again, I ignored it. Listened to the voicemail and said, hey, this is so-and-so from WWE. If you could give us a call back, like, that'd be great. So I knew I went to SUNY Albany for college. And I knew that WWE was having Raw at the then Pepsi Arena. So I assumed that it was maybe calling for me for some extra work. And I called them back, and they offered me a contract right then and there. And I was shocked, to say the least. But, it's great.
How has your style kind of evolved from back then to what you do now? When I recall pointing you out to a couple of people that I went to shows with where you were on the card, and I said, keep your eye on that guy because he's going to do something you're not going to expect, during the match. So how did you kind of evolve your in-ring style over time?
It's kind of been a little all over the place because, and like, I mean, it takes a while to kind of get your footing in there and kind of, what's comfortable, what you're comfortable with doing, what you're comfortable or not comfortable doing. So I would say that my style, if I had to put a name to it, would be sloppy but surprising, if that makes any sense. Like if you go back and watch Stan Hansen and Big Boss Man, they were very agile, but kind of all over the place in the ring. And that's kind of how I am, and that's not a bad thing. I would say it's a specific style. But I don't like going in there and being robotic and everything. I like, to move around and really, show people that I'm as agile as I can be. So that's why I like, saving the flashy stuff for toward the end of the match, just to, get people on their feet, I guess.
The plancha, you do the Canadian Destroyer, which now just about everybody does one of those, I feel like.
Oh yeah.
But what was the first time you tried that, and just kind of what was the reaction you got from people?
First time I tried that, so I've always wanted to take a Canadian Destroyer. So I believe it was me and Dan Barry were wrestling the Beaver Boys at, I think it was Beyond Wrestling. I knew Alex Reynolds could do it, and I trust Alex Reynolds. We have wrestled hundreds of times already, so I knew I could trust him. So I was like, hey, like, I know you can do a Canadian Destroyer. I want to take one. So let's just kind of add this into the match. So we did, got over great. People loved it. Fast forward to the end of that year, I think it was for CZW, one of the Cage of Deaths. So their biggest show of the year. And again, it's us versus the Beaver Boys.
The Beaver Boys, by the way, for people who don't know, are John Silver and Alex Reynolds of the current Dark Order, right?
Yes, that's right. I forget that sometimes. Had a lot of concussions, so But yeah, so it was Cage of Death, and I tell Alex, I'm like, hey, like, if you want to do that Canadian Destroyer again tonight, a lot of people here, look at a nice big reaction, why don't we do it? And he was like, no, why don't you do it to me? And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, that'll get a bigger reaction. Why don't you do it to me? So I was like, I've never even attempted to try this. So we got out a crash pad, and I was like, all right, like, here we go. I'm going to attempt this right now. So we go and hit it perfectly. So I was like, okay, well, I can do a Canadian Destroyer. So I'm going to add this as much as I possibly can into my repertoire.
And then it went well on the live match too, I guess. Where was that? Was that in Philly, or was that?
That was, where were they running at the time? I think it was Vernon, New Jersey. I think.
Oh, okay.
It was like the skate center, something skate center.
Zone. Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I remember seeing you pull that off, not expecting it. I've seen you do planches in matches where I wasn't expecting it. And I was like, all right, well, now I know to tell other people, just like, watch this guy. But were Hanson and Bossman two guys that you kind of like studied when you go and try to see things that you can kind of take and make your own? Are those two names that you kind of look at, and are there others?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hanson, Bossman, those are two that I've studied up and down. Two of my favorites, Stone Cold here and there too, and even Kane. If you watch the way that I throw my punches, like, that's who I would study, and I would watch him, and I would practice on nothing until I got it, down to near perfect in my eyes. But yeah, just pretty much this typical big guys who can move. That's really what I studied. And even down in FCW, you could always ask if they would make compilation DVDs for you if you wanted to, for tape study and everything. So you just put a bunch of names in there, and they'll just send you a bunch of random matches. So that was good to have at our pleasure, just anything that we wanted. I mean, and they're the size of their library, anything we wanted, we could get. So that was a big help.
What was your favorite thing about your time in FCW? What would you say is the best thing you learned there?
Oh, the best thing I learned? Well, I'd say probably just being under the eyes of Dusty Rhodes, Ricky Steamboat, Norman Smiley, Steve Kern, Dr. Tom, and, endless guests here and there that would show up and just help out from time to time. Learning, I mean, sitting every Wednesday in the ring, cutting a 1-minute promo in front of Dusty Rhodes and having him critique you on what you could do better and what, to change this. It's like, you're standing there and it's like, this is insane. Like, this is Dusty Rhodes, a guy that I grew up watching and loving, and now he's my boss, pretty much, telling me what to do and giving me advice. And I would always stick around after those days and kind of like pick their brains and everything, which that was my favorite part, is to You know, a lot of guys would just do the job and then just go home. But I liked sticking around and like, you know, not I don't want to say playing the game because I wasn't playing the game. That was like a fanboy thing in me. Was like, you know, like I want to pick these guys' brains to know more and to really, really understand. And that's what Dusty said to me. He said the first thing that he saw in me was Ray Traylor, Big Boss Man. He said that's who I was, and that's what he wanted me to be. But then like management for WWE had other ideas and wanted me to go more Texan, like a Stan Hansen, I guess, or you know, Bobby Duncombe, and they wanted me to be Bill's from Texas. I'm from New York. I can't do a Southern accent too well, so I wasn't really going to try to pretend there. But yeah, it was just listening to these guys and learning from these guys was just unbelievable. And that and the people I met along the way down there too are still some of my best friends today. So I would never met them if I wasn't down there for the 2 years I was there.
What made Dusty Rhodes so good at what he did? Like, what was the attention to detail like? What was the feedback like? And just kind of what made him tick? Because he sounds so interesting to hear.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he like what you see on television from him. That's who he was. There was no Dusty Rhodes on camera compared to Dusty Rhodes at home. Dusty Rhodes was Dusty Rhodes. Like Virgil Runnels did not exist. That was Dusty Rhodes. But just like he was just so like calm with everybody, and it was like soothing to like listen to him talk and listen to his feedback and everything. But he, you know, he could turn something that was bad into something that was great just by, if you say it like this while you're looking over here or doing some just like little things here and there. You twist your body like this, and when you hit this point, twist it like that. Just little things that you would never even think of doing. But because he was there and letting us know, and it's like, oh my God, yeah, okay, that doesn't sound like it would make a difference to, you know, body position and your eyes and the way you move your mouth, the way you move your hands, just all of that stuff. He knew just by looking at you, like what you were able to do before you even spoke. So he would let you speak, knowing exactly what you're going to do. And then, you know, like I said, before you even spoke, he already had his critiques and already had his advice for you afterwards. But like I said, that was even like talking about it now. It's like for 2 years I was, you know, being coached by Dusty Rhodes, which it's still insane to me.
It's interesting too that you said that he kind of saw Big Boss Man Ray Traylor in you, since I'm pretty sure he was the one instrumental for actually hiring Ray Traylor as Big Bubba Rogers and taking him off of enhancement and making him the bodyguard for the Midnight Express. And then he feuded with Ray Traylor in the WWF.
Oh yeah,
when he got there.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I was really hoping for when he brought that up, was a feud with Dusty Rhodes at some point.
Bull rope match.
Yeah.
How did you?
Funny story with that, with the bull rope actually. So when they told me that they wanted me to kind of be like a Bobby Duncombe, you know, Stan Hansen type, so they were pretty much feeding me every week. Okay, do this, wear this, cut your hair like this, dye your hair blonde, switch to trunks, put on a vest. They wanted me to get a bull rope. I didn't have a bull rope. I don't even know where to get a bull rope. So he gave me one of his own that I still have to this day, which is, you know, priceless to me, which I'll never give up. But yeah, so he was the one who to give me the bull rope that I used for years down there.
How did you become Bobby Dutch? Where did you get the name from? Whose idea was that?
So at the time, they were big on, it seems like now their WWE is big on just single names. At this time, they were big on first and last names. So we were told to just kind of come up with different first names, different last names, kind of put them together. You know, like think of like a few of your favorite movie characters and try to switch those around. So what I did, I don't know, I must have given them a list of 100 different names. But Bobby Dutch was, or is, the other two characters from Karate Kid who were in Cobra Kai. Bobby and Dutch. So I just combined the two, and that's what they picked.
And then you managed to keep your Twitter handle as WWE Dutch for years after that.
All the way until Ring of Honor told me to change it because they wouldn't put my Twitter handle on their Twitter feed. So,
and then you finally had to change it again.
Yep.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I mean, years you were WWE Dutch on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
Any other like fun stories of developmental you're able to tell in this format? Any PG tales from promo class or anything?
That's a good hard question. So I don't know if you've read Moxley's book all yet, but I got it hoping to hear like some FCW stories that we had from back in the day. Right off the bat, he said, I'm not going to talk about FCW because a lot of things may incriminate people. So I'm just going to keep that out. But let's see. We had a lot of fun. What can I talk about? That's a good question.
That kind of says it all, though.
Yeah, I guess so.
If Moxley's going to incriminate himself in his book, then it might be best for other shows and other formats. I think.
Yeah, I think so. It's probably for the best. I mean,
the Bill Carr future Patreon.
yeah, you got a bunch of 21 to 26-year-old guys down in Florida living on their own. Drinks were flowing pretty heavily and every night, and it was a blast. It was a blast. I'm sure maybe some of the stories that I could tell I don't remember, but the ones that I do were probably, like you said, maybe best for off the air.
I do recall I was doing some research before, and you had an appearance on somebody we both know, Brian Chairs' old podcast, Tables, Ladders, and Chairs, and you talked about it came up that you started on the same day in WWE as Liake, who became Roman Reigns.
Yes.
And just what was he like at you probably literally saw his first matches, and
I was there from literally day one with him.
Your day one.
He as soon as he walked through the door, like, you'd take one look at him and you're like, okay, this guy's going to be a star. And sure enough, but, since we started on the same day, we kind of, stuck by each other for a while because, nobody knows anybody down there, where this is a new environment for everybody. So you got to, whoever you trust, you got to keep close. The wrestling business. Sometimes it's shady and messed up, but the ones you trust, you keep close to you. So we gained a trust right off the bat, and he was married with a kid and making $500 a week, so it was tough for him to afford certain things. So every Monday we would have to watch Raw and do a report. So he would come over to my apartment and we'd watch Raw together every week, and because he couldn't afford cable at the time, and he would always say that he thinks he's getting fired. He's like, I don't know, I have a feeling where I think I'm going to be getting let go. I'm like, you are the last person that is going to be let go in this group here. Like, you just gotta have some confidence, and that confidence, obviously, as you can see now, is there. But I knew right from day one this guy was going to be the face of WWE at some point.
And he's improved so much, even as a star too. Like, even you could see the different levels he's kind of taken his persona to, from the time in the Shield even to now.
Oh yeah, he's it's like a complete 180. I don't want to say a complete 180 because once he got that confidence and once they kind of gave him the ball to go run with it on his own. You saw in the beginning, there was a few instances where maybe he wasn't comfortable with certain things, but once he got the ball rolling, like, he's unstoppable. And that's how he was down in FCW, and that's what he's doing right now. And he's going to be doing it for a long time. I don't see anybody taking his spot anytime soon.
When I was looking through your own FCW history, I found some fun names of opponents and partners there too. Seth Rollins tagging with Biggie and Xavier Woods, teaming with Byron Saxton, which that was one that kind of surprised me a little bit.
Byron Saxton, yeah, he's a great in-ring wrestler. He really is. He's got that gift where he never needs to wrestle ever. He never needs to hurt his body. So he's got the gift where he could talk and talk and talk and talk. And he's another guy too where what you see on television is who you see in person. You know, I haven't seen him in a while, but I assume he's probably still the same. But he's just very charismatic and just very, you know, he's an entertainer, you know, and he does a great job at it.
And the other one I noticed on there too was Bray Wyatt. Well, I'm thinking that you guys, you seem like in another dimension you could have easily fit into that Wyatt family kind of persona at some point.
Yes. So yeah, he's another one where we became friends instantly because he has the same interests as I do, watches the same movies, listens to the same music. And we're almost the same exact person. I mean, we're the same height. We look very similar at the time. And yeah, he's such a great guy. He's awesome. And, you know, he's one of the smartest guys you'll ever meet in wrestling. Another guy who never has to work, never has to do anything. He'll make money just by what he says. And it's a shame what, you know, I don't know if they didn't see enough in him or maybe he was booked wrong or something. I don't know. But, you know, there's a lot of, I don't want to say wasted talent there, but maybe a lot of missed opportunities with that talent there that they kind of just threw away. Such a good guy.
I feel like with him, it's sometimes maybe them not understanding the pitch, like not understanding where he's going with certain creative ideas. Because I didn't think that sometimes a lot of them ended up making sense and maybe weren't exactly what his actual vision of what they were doing should be.
Yeah, but absolutely. And I mean, like what was the WrestleMania a few years ago during COVID where it was him and Cena? That was kind of like the
Firefly Funhouse match, I think.
That was one of the best segments I think I've ever seen in wrestling. You know, and like, how do you not capitalize on that? And just it blows my mind.
Who was the first person in wrestling to realize that you were actually funny? Because you are a funny guy, and you seem to enjoy the lighter side of wrestling. So was there?
Absolutely.
Was there anybody who kind of noticed that about you, and that's kind of like where you went in some of that direction with doing the Team Tremendous stuff?
I don't know, because it's just I'm very personable with people, you know, even like backstage. You know, that's just who I am. So it eventually, I guess, just started coming out in my work with Team Tremendous and everything. But, you know, Dan had a big hand in that too, because he's a stand-up comedian.
Right.
So the both of us kind of fit well together. And yeah, I guess I would give him some credit there on getting me to kind of open up, because when I got released from WWE, I was trying to get back, but trying to do like the same thing, you know, there's the big intimidating guy. So he was the one who was like, hey, why don't we tag and why don't we try out this gimmick? It was like a Halloween show that we were doing for Interspecies Wrestling. So he was like, let's do, let's dress as 80s cops, undercover cops. So he dressed in the Hawaiian shirt with the shorts. I had the white shirt, suspenders, and slacks and everything. And I'm like, I don't know about this. I'm trying to be serious and trying to get my job back here. But the reaction we got when we walked out, I was like, okay, this could work. And then the match went, and after it was over, I was like, okay, yeah, this is what I'll focus on now instead of being serious and trying to do what everybody else is doing, you know. So yeah, I'd give Dan credit for helping me come out of my shell a little bit.
What did you like about that run in the tag team with him? You guys were together for what, 6-7 years?
Yeah, a long time. Yeah, it was just fun. It was a blast because, again, you got the big guy and little guy aspect of it, where neither of us are in shape, but we'll both bust out some surprising things here and there. We debuted in our characters in ISW, but we didn't really get our big break until, I guess, Beyond Wrestling. And we did American Rana 2013, whatever the first American Rana that they had. And we weren't even booked on it to begin with. I think we replaced somebody. And we wound up, I don't want to blow smoke or anything, but people were coming up to us like, you guys stole the show. Like, you were my favorite part of the show. And since then, we would get all of the top tag teams pretty much throughout the world that would come into Beyond Wrestling, and they would have to wrestle us. And because of that, we were able to work in PWG. We were able to go over to Progress, OTT, CZW. We had a few matches for Impact. So it was really Beyond Wrestling that gave us the platform to really show what we can do and give us people that are better than us that we can, kind of show what we could do, I guess, because for me, that's the only way you're going to get better in wrestling anyway, is if you are working with somebody who is better than you, that who can teach you different things here and there. And Beyond Wrestling gave us that opportunity, working with Red Dragon, the Young Bucks, Chris Hero, all those guys. It was a blast. I loved it.
Very good. And then I first noticed you on the House of Hardcore shows was when I started seeing you in those multi-man matches where, of course, you guys would stand out on those regularly too. And then I was thinking too about the lighter side of wrestling kind of stuff. Some of the stuff you've done with High Spots is out of this world and creative.
Oh, yeah.
Not necessarily family friendly at times.
No, not at all, actually.
How did all of that come about that you ended up doing that stuff?
Well, I was always friends with, guys like Trent and Orange Cassidy, Chuck Taylor. We were doing the same shows for years, and we became very friendly, and we all had the same sense of humor, and you get us all together, and we could sit there and talk and laugh for hours and hours on end. So High Spots was like, yeah, why don't we just put this on camera? Here, we'll put you guys in a room, and you just talk, and we'll make people buy it. And they did. People still are buying it. But that was so much fun. But again, like you said, not really family friendly. So if you have kids and you want to get the High Spots subscription just to watch these, I'd wait a few years.
Parental discretion is advised.
Yes.
Very nice. We're going to move to something we call the 3 count now. It's going to be 3 quick questions and your answers. So I mentioned about everybody doing a Canadian destroyer now. What's one other move you can just work into your repertoire now to get a crowd reaction that's not a Canadian destroyer?
Flying head scissors. Could do that pretty easily. Hurricane Rana too.
What about something you haven't tried?
Oh, haven't done. Oh, yeah. Let's see.
Because I've seen you do both of those.
Yeah, that's true. Let's see. Maybe a Frankensteiner off the top. Bust that out. Let's see. Yeah, maybe I'll give that a try. Maybe.
Wait until you can work with one of the Steiners.
Yes.
Maybe even the younger one.
Yeah.
Who are the top 3 wrestlers that you've been compared to? Do you agree with those comparisons, or is there anyone else you'd rather be compared to?
Yeah, like I said before, Stan Hansen, Big Boss Man. What else is another one? I guess Bruiser Brody would be another one too. But I mean, those are the guys I idolized, later on in life. Like my wrestling growing up was Hulk Hogan, then Stone Cold. Once I started discovering wrestling outside of WWF at the time, that's when I saw Stan Hansen. Always been a big fan of Big Boss Man, but Bruiser Brody, like the brawlers from the 80s in Japan and Mexico and Puerto Rico. And I get compared to those guys from time to time, and that's a big, I would rather get compared to those guys than anybody else,
Is that also stuff that you studied, Japan, Puerto Rico, that kind of stuff on your own?
Yep. Yeah.
And finally, what is the most ridiculous creative thing you've seen on a wrestling card? You've been on a lot of interesting lineups.
Ooh, let's see. Most creative thing.
Most ridiculous creative thing. Too,
Ridiculously creative thing.
Yeah.
Oh. That's a good question. Again, I've had concussions, so it takes me a while to think about things.
I mean, they don't have to be snap, and I try to make them good. So
okay. Oh man. Well, just from my memory, going back to just stuff that we've done. So we had an idea. It was me and Dan, who, like I said, were both cops, wrestling Dick Justice, who plays a cop, and Colt Cabana, who at a time played a cop. So we did a finger gun spot, which the crowd loved. The internet liked it too, except for the select few people, which I'm sure you can kind of handpick out. But the whole story, like if you watch that match and you get rid of the finger gun thing, it's leading to the finish, where we were using these finger guns and, you know, being comedic and everything, which led to Dick Justice getting so frustrated that he pulls out a real gun. And then like the match kind of stops there and he gets rolled up real quick. But, you know, it's kind of the building to that I thought was funny and creative that we came up with all of that. But I don't know. I don't know. You know what? I'm having a brain fart here, which is not good. But I don't want to keep talking about, you know, stuff that we've done and everything. But that was just the first thing that came to mind.
I figured you've been at Beyond, you've been at Interspecies, you've probably seen every different type of wrestling imaginable and possible. So
yeah, there's been a lot.
Yeah. Well, Bill, thank you so much, or Dutch, whichever I'm going to call you today. Thank you so much for joining us today on Under the Ring Pro Wrestling Conversations. You know, wishing you all the best. Thank you for having me moving forward.